Okay, Shalom Aleichem, everybody. Welcome. You're welcome. We have the honor to have with us Rabbi Mordechai Leitner. Rabbi Mordechai Leitner is the Rav in the adjacent community. The first year I moved here, I used to walk. You could tell I was more in shape. I used to walk to the shul there and come. But Baruch Hashem, Yidden are moving in our neighborhood, so we're able to make our shul here. Rabbi Mordechai Leitner is a known Talmid Chacham. If you see his picture, it's like a movie star in the China shul. He gives a shir or a Chaim HaKadosh, and he has a yeshiva. And I asked him to teach us something that a lot of people, even the very frum people, don't know. We like gefilte fish. There's a lot of foods that we like, but are we eating it because we like it, or are we eating it? Is there something rich in Yiddishkeit about the Shabbos food? Rabbi Mordechai Leitner is on a time clock. He says he's starting Shabbos early. He's going to be out of here like a lightning. So let's take advantage.
Thank you for the warm introduction. I know Rabbi Willem wants me to talk about about the interesting, so-called not typical food, but we'll start slowly. We'll see how much we can accomplish in this amount of time. So, first of all, everybody knows what's universal, no matter which community, Sephardic, Ashkenaz, everybody knows the basics is wine and obviously bread. That's you need. That you can't start a Shabbos meal without that. Why? Why is it so important? So you say, oh, okay, as you say, it satiates, it's typical food, we like it, but there's a deeper meaning to it. On Friday, Adam Rishon was created with Chava, and then the story with a tree happened. I did not say apple, because I don't know the source of apple. It was not an apple. The Gemara, actually, there's a few opinions, and that's what I'm focusing on. One of the opinions is it was grapes, wine, and we want to fix it. That's why we do Kiddush on wine. That's how we start, because it happened on a Friday. And we go into Shabbos. Shabbos represents the next world, which will be Olam HaTikun, will be completely fixed. So that's how we do the wine, and also the bread, because the other opinion was that the Eitz Hadas, the tree of knowledge, as they call it, was wheat. So we fix it through those foods. The same reason the women light candles also Friday afternoon, because it was a conjunction with the she bird and the man. He also had a part of it. That's why it's brought down in Shulchan Aruch that the man should prepare the candles and she should light it, because both have a part and we have to fix it. So it's a day of fixing all the damage that we did throughout. So that's just an introduction. Now, if you notice, many people add a drop of water to the wine. So the simple reason, you could say years ago, I'm talking about years ago, means in times of the Gemara, 1500 years ago, when you took out water of grapes, it wasn't so like water like today. It was more thick, like a syrup. So you had to dilute it, so you added water. But today's days, it's not like that. So why do you add water? So there's a Kabbalistic reason for it. Because it says in Medrash that the wine, which was the tree of knowledge, the whole story brought Yelala. Yelala means crying on the world, brought death on the world. So, and water represents Chesed. Mayim is considered Chesed. So we take the din, like the tough stuff, and we dilute it. So we add water. Just an interesting thing to know. Very important. Before we go to the food, when you go to the grocery to shop for Shabbos, it's brought down Shulchan Aruch. They have to say L'koved Shabbos Kodesh. When you say it, by the register, you put in, it goes in the Kiddush Shabbos, the holiness in the food. Okay, so why do we eat fish? He mentioned gefilte fish. So very interesting fish. One reason, very interesting, we start with something. Fish does not need to shchita. Yeah, you don't need a special shoichet. Even if you have also live fish, some people for Pesach, they go, anybody could just chop it off. And why doesn't it need shchita? The more refined, the more pure species, it doesn't need shchita. I'm not going to go into details, but the animals is more like, coarse, gashmias. Yeah, that's why I need shchita. Yeah, I'm not going to go into real details. The quick, it needs to be cut through two pipes, the esophagus and what's the other one called? The windpipe. and the bird needs one. It's more refined, and the fish doesn't need it all. Fish are very refined. They're very. The Gemara says.
Je weet wat ze zoekt, ja, ze zijn een shimmer van Rebben.
Ja, dat is gewoon gezegd van, ja. And the fish, the Gemara says, did not die by the Mabul, by the big flood, because they didn't sin. They're more refined character. The Gemara says there's no ayin hara in fish. So that's how we start off the meal with something very pure. The Bnei Yissaschar, he was 180, he was nifter 185 years ago. Reb Tzvi Melech of Dinner, very famous, wrote a lot of Sfarim. He writes very interesting. The fish were created on the 5th day, on Thursday. There's actually a fish store, Flatbush, it's called Day 5, like the name. So the fish were created on Thursday, and it says, Varvarach Alikim, Hashem blessed them. They got a special blessing. And Rashi, interesting, Rashi says, why do they need a blessing? Because we catch a lot of them. So they have a lot. There's swimming schools of millions of fish. Yeah, that was Thursday. Friday, man was created. Hashem gave a bracha, and he gave a blessing for Adam Achav approval. And Shabbos, as we say by Kiddush, so 3 days in a row, Thursday, Friday, Shabbos, you have blessings. So we put them all together. The man, the person eats fish on Shabbos, so we got a triple blessing. So it says in there's a kapitel Tehillim, Ismail David, which is, we say it many people say it by the meals of Shabbos. It says, Bin Ois Desha Yarbit, saying the Desha is acronym, Dogim, Shabbos, Odam. These are these three, they go together. And also that parak of Tehillim, the 23rd, Mizmor David, has 227 letters, which is the gematria of bracha, which is a bracha, that's why. So when we eat fish, what it means, we eat something that's very pure. It is so pure that the Yismach Moshe, Rabbi Moshe Teitelbaum, he also was nifter 185 years ago. He was a big rabbi in Hungary. If you hear of the Satmar dynasty, he's the first of that dynasty. He was a Talmud. He used to go to the Rebbe of Lublin. Lublin was they used to call him the seer, big tzaddik. In Lublin, there are a lot of Talmidim. And he writes in the Sefer that the Rebbe of Lublin asked him, Avraham Avinu made a big meal, it says, when the Malachim came to him. And it's mentioned that he brought them all kind of food. He brought them tongue, he gave them, and then lechem. Where's the fish? Why doesn't he mention any fish? Fish is something they always eat by a special meal. See this mitzvah. A lot of tzaddikim, never ate fish during the week because it's only made for Shabbos, Yom Tov, or Shchot, like special days. That's how refined it is. So why don't we find fish by that meal? That's what the Rebbe from Lien asked him. And he says, I answered him that, I'm not going to go into this topic because I don't want to go off topic. Quick. Gilgul, reincarnation it's called, right? And the Neshama is going, it's more than that tzaddikim, I'm a Gilgul and fish. A lot of tzaddikim had a big avoid in the fish. If they have to fix something minor, they go into a fish. He says in those days, they were either very big tzaddikim, they didn't need Gilgul at all. So there was no point of eating fish in those days. That's what he answered. He said that everything liked this answer. There's another ma'achel, food that it's brought down to the Baal Shem Tov. He instituted, it's called farfel. They eat in Chabad? That's so. They know what it is? Farfel.
Farfel is a universal word. You see the peklach called.
Right. Yeah. So Baal Shem Tov, they say, used to eat this farfel tzimmus and carrot tzimmus manze. So they bring down from Pinchas of Karetz, he said, what's farfel? They say in Yiddish it's called farfal. It means, okay, it's gone. The Averis, whatever he did, whatever he messed up during the week, for be farfal. That's the idea of farfel, because the Gemara says a pasuk called Shomer Shabbos Mechalalo. If summer is a real Shomer Shabbos, whatever it did is machaloi. It's forgiven. So you did farfel, you show it's farfal, and it comes hot. You serve it hot. The Belzer rabbis, they used to say that represents the lechem haponim. Lechem haponim was the bread in Beis Hamikdash that they only served on Shabbos for the Kahanim. It was hot, was piping hot. It's brought down this week in the Rashi at the end of the Pasha. And that's why farfel has to be hot, and they only ate it on Shabbos, not on Yom Tov, if it comes out during the week, because it's strictly Shabbos, not even Yom Tov. It's only the Shabbos. The Lechem haponim was once a week. That's when you eat farfel. Yeah. And I don't know how many, against all these things, you have to understand, according to taste. If something you don't like, you have to understand, I'm talking about strictly halacha, and then, you have to have only Shabbos. But in general, by day you eat eggs, we'll go to the eggs later, you eat onion, and many people eat garlic. Also Friday night, garlic, that's already bought before.
That's the kind of says it.
Ezra Sofer, yeah, that's what we bought before, that's what I'm going to say. Ezra Sofer, he built the second Beis Hamikdash. He instituted on eating garlic, not raw garlic, cooked garlic, yeah, on Friday night. So, what's the idea of eating garlic and onions on Shabbos? If you see I think it's a Parshas Ba'aloischa, everybody knows in the Midbar there was the man. Man had all the taste, you could taste everything in it. Almost all the taste. There are certain foods, you see they complain over there. They say, we remember the good times in Mitzrayim. We had their onion, we had garlic, there's certain things, watermelon, and fish. These things weren't. So there's certain reason. The Gemara says that the reason they didn't have garlic, because there were a lot of mothers, young mothers, breastfeeding mothers, and it's not good for the mother to have garlic, not good for the child. I guess it makes them gassy or something, it's not healthy. So the man, you cannot taste onion and garlic. So those things, in general, those things that they weren't in the man, we eat them on Shabbos. Yeah. Because
the one didn't fall on Shabbos.
Yeah, there was no. So that's the idea. That's why it says, we remember the fish. But they didn't have fish, and they couldn't even taste the fish over there. Very interesting. There's a famous, as you mentioned before, I don't know if you guys ever tasted it. Not everyone's taste. I personally love it. It's called, it has different variations. It's called Gala, Petzeh, Pecha. I'm not going to go into
You've seen it?
My father used to love it.
Oh, okay.
So I looked at the recipe. I haven't eaten it myself.
That's it. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. If you go to the recipe, not everybody goes for it. You see, my grandfather always loved it. My mother never. I grew up without it. I love it, but yeah, it depends on. It's an interesting recipe. It goes with.
Even today, it's made from illegal things. It's supposed to be from the knee bone.
That's right, knee bones.
And they don't sell it officially.
Right. Knee bones. In some places, they make it with chicken feet. So all of them, it's either knee bones or the idea is feet. Why? And it's all object conjunction with spices and garlic and whatever. But that's the core ingredient. That's for sure. Without that, it's not a gala. It's something fake. I saw in Evergreen they sell fish gala, which means they spice it up, but it's only fish sauce. It does no gala. I mean, it's fake. It's not. Gala means it's
like black kosher chicken.
There you go.
You don't say black.
So, Petzeh, you write it, Pei, Tzadik, Ein, Yud. It's acronym for Amcha Yisrael Tzrichem Parnasa.
Sorry. If you ever see what it looks like congealed. Sorry, how would you congealed?
Gel.
Like meat jello.
Yeah, but
It's like a meat jello.
you're not gonna eat. I'm telling you, you're not gonna eat.
Never know.
When you read the ingredients,
I think
You never know.
the ingredients,
Try it
there's
once.
nothing there that your doctor will allow.
Well, but it includes, it has to include chicken feet?
You boil it.
Either chicken feet or knee bones.
All right. So
There's
you
some who
get-
do it. There's certain other traditions, but that's basically as the feet. What's the idea of feet and legs? So we know where these times are called ikvis of the Mashiach, which Eka means the heels, the legs of Mashiach. Shabbos is the day of truth. Shabbos is no baloney around. It's the day of truth, and the Gemara says sheker ein lo reglaim. Sheker doesn't have feet. Sheker doesn't stand. If you make a big lie, eventually it will fall down. So
It has nothing to stand on. It has no feet.
So we show that Shabbos is a day of emes, so we eat legs. That's one thing, and also as
Can
you
we find a
said,
bucket to eat pizza? Maybe you're giving us.
it's yeah. Also Rosh Hashanah. Yeah. So Shabbos and Olam Haba, which is the day, which will be Shabbos represents Olam Haba, which is going to be strictly only truth. So that's why we eat it. All the things it presents Olam Haba on Shabbos, and. Also, as I mentioned before, Ikvis of the Mashiach, to bring Mashiach closer, and we believe we're in those times now, so we eat such a Meichel. Today is the yahrzeit of the Ramah. I don't know if Rabbeinu Moshe Israel, they used to call him. Moshe ben Yisrael Israel, that's what his father's name. He was the I don't know if everyone here, I believe, comes from Ashkenazic Jewry. He was our poisik, as they say. We follow him. He writes that Shabbos, the minhag is to eat, he calls it pashtida. It's a kugel, which it's like a sandwich, has a crust on top and the bottom. That's the idea of overnight kugel. Why? To remember the man. The man in the midbar says in the Torah, it came out like a sandwich. It had something on top of it, so that's why we eat the man. Now, before we get to the kugel,
That's why we eat the kugel, not the money.
there you go. But that's right. But before I get to the kugel, I just wanted to go before I was by the challah. It has a cover on top, and also it should be also on the bottom some kind of cover, preferably white because it was white. Also the cover should be white, but a lot of medagdik, there were people who were very careful on halacha, so everybody knows it's covered by kiddush for certain reasons. But even when you open it up, you want to make the bracha over it. But like they would make a small cut. We don't cut it completely. Why not? Because it has to be a whole challah. We want to make the bracha, lecha mishnah, because that's the cover of Shabbos. So we make a small. That's like you're starting, but you're not. So they cut and then you cover it. It's brought down. It should be covered by the bracha because it's as you know. It's the man. It's the man. It should be in the sandwich in the box as much as possible. It's very interesting.
How about the halacha that you want to have all 10?
10 fingers on the bread.
That's something else.
Because
Because
you do 10 mitzvahs.
10 mitzvahs.
By the time you get a loaf of bread, 10 mitzvahs have to be done to that. Wheat, flour.
Okay.
And the bracha Baruch Ata Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam Hamoitzi Lechem Min Haaretz has 10 words. A lot of this. And there's another psukim. There's another reason why there's 10. So you hold the 10 fingers, but under the cover, and then you uncover it when you slice.
You know, there's a juggling act. How you hold the challahs is a difference between Friday night and Shabbos by day.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fun,
Maybe
right?
we'll-
Also certain minhagim in it. Yeah. So let's get to the kugel. So that's the idea of an overnight kugel, some kind of crust. The idea it should have on top and the bottom. It should have it should look like a sort of sandwich something, because everything. It's not only that. Now the question is, there's no man on Shabbos, as we mentioned before. So why do I have to eat something that's a zecher to the man? And the same goes for the challah. What's the idea? I thought there's no man on Shabbos. So simple answer is that on Friday it fell double portion. So we did have on man. It fell on Friday in honor of Shabbos. So we did have the man on Shabbos. That's a simple answer. But there's much more to that, because the Gemara says that HaMashiach will come very soon. We will have a big meal. All the tzaddikim, whoever lives by Mashiach, will have yain hamashumer, the special wine put away from the 6th day of creation. That's why we drink wine. And we'll have shara bar. That's why we eat meat on Shabbos. And leviyosin is the fish. We have fish on Shabbos. And it says the malachim will be grinding man for tzaddikim. That means we'll be eating man on Shabbos. I mean, that the whole day. It will be full Shabbos. They won't be. I think it's a Yom Shekol Shabbos. It's called. Therefore, we prepare it so we have man now. Why do we eat eggs? Very interesting reason, not a known reason. Most people won't know why we eat eggs on Shabbos. Simply, which is probably has a truth to it. The chalent was made out of beans and potatoes. Depends on which area they lived. They used to take the cheapest available. People didn't have money. That Shabbos, so it's very available. Everybody had their own, they had their own little, vegetation growing. And the beans, it was cheap. Potatoes in Poland is very cheap. Eggs, people had their own chickens. It makes sense, but there's always a deeper reason to it. The Sefer Tosfos Shabbos, it was about 400 years ago. Very interesting. He says the reason we eat eggs on Shabbos, God forbid, when someone is mourning, they eat a round thing. Today's days, eggs used to be beans, as it brought down by Yaakov and Esav. Avraham Avinu was nifter. Yaakov cooked the red lentils. So we eat eggs because Moshe Rabbeinu was nifter on Shabbos. That's why, if you notice, Shabbos by Mincha, we say Tzidkoscha. It's like sort of a tachna. We're mourning Moshe Rabbeinu. Yeah. So that's why we eat eggs on Shabbos.
That time, what was gestimmt, according to the Rebbe says about Pesach eating the egg, eating the beitz and the kaira, and there's only to zeichel avelas churm.
It's a big
The
machlok.
Rebbe
Yeah.
says Man kann nicht machen Averos.
The Rebbe and the Gru.
Yeah.
The Gru is also very upset.
No,
He
so
says,
we
Tisha
can
B'Av.
make Averos of Shabbos.
Of
You tell
course,
me, is
yeah.
it?
Yeah. Wat is er steht? Oh, you see, it's Koschel.
Yeah, okay.
There's something there. Yeah, whatever. I'll tell you a very fascinating story.
You're missing your chopped liver. Chopped liver, you're going to
Chopped liver, the COVID. I don't know if I get it. I get it. Let's see how much I can get it. The COVID. Yeah. Let's see if I get it. Let me see. If I'm eggs, let me just say two interesting stories. Tzaddikim had a very big avodah. There was a very big Indian when they cut the eggs. They used to prepare the eggs themselves. Usually the wife was in the kitchen. They used to prepare all the food, but the eggs, a lot of things did it themselves. The famous Divrei Chaim, the Tzanzarov, one of the Rabbanim writes, he was by him 3 Shabbosim in a row. And somebody asked him, a guy who was only there for that Shabbos, he saw, what's the reason? And he gave him one reason. The next Shabbos, a different guy asked, he gave him a different reason. So it doesn't know the real reason. But there was a big avodah in eggs. So I'll tell you two fascinating stories from from these times. The closing of the Rebbe, Zech Tzad, he was by the Nazis in the concentration camp. And he asked, I don't know if he had it on, what kind of money he had, if he had it all, but he asked whoever, that's what he announced, it was Shabbos, if someone will bring me an egg, I'll repay him. I won't, it will be good, it's a good investment. There was one guy, he worked in the kitchen, and he did something with smuggling out of the kitchen. It was a big one, so you can get killed for it, but he got an egg. His name was, I believe, Rappaport. I heard from a guy, he was the grandchild of this person. He lived in London. He never asked the closing for any favor, like he owes him a favor for that. He never. Many years passed. This was in the 1990s. And this person's grandson was in the hospital. Young guy, very sick. He was in a coma. And the doctors, they gave very, very few chances he should wake up. And to the grandfather says, wait a minute, I have something to cash in. He promised me 50 years ago. He flew to Israel. By then, the closing was sort of out of commission, as to say, not responding. He was wasn't even in his house, in the home with nurses, a special. In the older years, and he went to his son, which is the closing Rebbe today of Netanya of Israel. I told him, I need from your father something. He told me, just listen, my father's, he's not with us, so to speak. He cannot talk to him. He says, you must let me in. He told me, listen, you want to come along? You can see for yourself. And he walks into home to it. He's like this, he's sleeping. And he goes and he tells him his ears, he tells him Yiddish, but the Rebbe promised that I will bring him an egg. This was then, and my grandson needs a refuah, needs a yeshua. And Klosnerov starts saying, it was very weak, but he says it, there's a heist there. What's his name? He said his son, the Rebbe, he was shocked. He didn't hear his father speak in a long time. It was he thought it was really out. And he told him the name and his mother's name. And they were waiting. He should give a blessing, say Refuah Shlema. And it was quiet. It was quiet for a long time. And they waited a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes. It was 10 minutes. He was about to give up, go out. It's as much. He was warned before. He doesn't. It's nice that he responded the first time. As about to walk out, he says, he told him, Refuah Shalem. Be Refuah Shalem, should everything okay. He said by the time he came back to London, his grandson was up in bed and it was amazing. That's one story with the egg. Another story I heard from Herbst. You know Herbst? Yeah. He also lives here in Montebello. He was over there. The Baba Rebbe lived in Borough Park. And most rabbis have a tish Friday night. By day, most rabbis don't. And Baba, they have a few times a year. It's called a special Shabbos. Shabbos Chanukah or Shabbos Shkom. Certain Shabbosim, the Rebbe eats with the oilam by day. He says there was a guy who did not have children who lived in Israel. They didn't have children for many years. I don't know, 15 years or something. And the Bavarov told him that you have to move. There's an Indian of Meshana Mokam. You change the place where you live, Meshana Mazel. He told, very interesting. Usually you don't say that. He told him from Israel. He told him to move to America. Okay, he moved to America. And it was Shabbos Chanukah. And this guy walked into the Tish. He ate at his home. And then he came to the Rebbe's Tish. And he was up to the eggs. To the eggs and the onions. And the Bavarov asked him, did you bench already? Because he wants to give him challah and eggs. He says yes. So go wash and make hamoitzi. And he says he was there. The Herbst told me he was mamish crying. The Bavuri, so he's crying. He's really putting in a real effort. He's crying as he put the eggs on the challah, and he actually gave it to him. And 10 months later, he has a child. Right, so we see there's something in these eggs. And honestly, I don't know the things. Every week when I prepare that, I say I'll do it on their mind. Those tzaddikim, they know what they're doing, whatever it is over there. It's kind of late. I'll try to do very quick. I'll finish with a cute story about the liver, the chopped liver. A chopped liver, I don't know if it's chopped or the regular. I guess it's more of a matter of taste. But the idea of liver in general is like this. How do you say king in Lashon Kodesh? Anybody know? Melech, yeah. So Melech is Mem Lamed Chov, which is Moyach Lev Koved. Moyach means a mind, Lev is the heart, and the Kov is the liver. That's how a person who is in control of himself, who's like a king, which every Jewish person would be like that, is the mind over the heart. The heart wants to do stuff, but the mind tells him what's right and wrong. That's over the liver, which represents the real lower parts. It processes, it's a very important organ, don't get me wrong. But it processes all the food, it's more the tavas. And Tosis brings down, there was Bilam, famous secular prophet. He wanted to curse Klal Yisrael. And Tosis said, what did he want to say? He wanted to say Kalem. Kalem is the opposite of Melech. Melech is Mem Lamed Kof, Kalem is Kof Lamed Mem. He wanted that we should be, instead of being control our mind, the heart and the liver should be on top. That's the curse for Yid. We have to be in control, so it's called self-control, right? So Shabbos is a time, and the weekdays to eat liver, it could pull you down. Shabbos, we show we are in control. We don't eat just for the geschmack. We are as like a olam haba, so we can eat the liver, we can handle it, so to speak. I'll show you an interesting story. Shalshidis, the third meal. I know Chabad usually they don't wash. Rabbi Willem does he eat fruit sometimes? Yeah, they eat fruit, right? Yeah. So that's a story. But Chassidim, they came down most of them came down together. They used to sing together or say the Torah together. They were makbet to have a minyan, if it's possible. So they said that Baal Shem Tov was once in the town, and he saw the people of the town, and they weren't, they came together to eat shalshis. He asked them, why do you do that? So he said, Shabbos we got another neshama. It's called neshama yaseir, additional neshama. And a person, when it's time for the neshama to leave, you need a minyan. You try to get a minyan together. So when it comes Matzah Shabbos, the neshama yaseir is about to leave. We had a minyan together. He said he liked that. He's very interesting. Shan should help you have a.
Can I just, before you leave a lesson, there's another type for the liver.
No.
How do you say liver in Hebrew? How do you say liver in Hebrew? Kaved. Okay, and the liver they have with onions. The Gemara tells us if you need a person should support Shabbos, do whatever it takes to make your Shabbos honorable. Hashem says even take loans, and I guarantee to pay. So there's a trick, a play of words here. Hashem says onions in Yiddish is batzolim. Batzolim in Hebrew. In Yiddish, it means to pay. Hashem says, you do what you do, and I'll be batzol, and I'll pay you mit kuvin. I'll give you, it'll be an honorable.
Yeah, I get batzol. Kuvin, I didn't pay with money. It's
all with kuvin.
Yeah, I'll thank you.
Okay, if you want to
have a Geschmack Shabbos. I'm sure you will have over here. Shabbat Locha, maybe celebrate all these stuff we spoke about, the Yom Shekol Shabbos and Yerushalayim very soon.
My wife a job to make all these stuff. Thank you very much. Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you. Let me just hold on before you go.